Alright guys, I want to talk to you about how to succeed in the Cisco courses. There's a lot of material, you got the Academy website, you've got your textbook, there's Cisco resources online, so just to kind of get you through the stuff. Alright, each week in the course, there's going to be some things that you're going to do each week. So there's always going to be a lecture on the chapter. There's always going to be a quiz, and the quiz is something that you take home and do. There's always going to be a lab that's graded. The graded labs are in class. There's always an Academy assessment. The Academy assessments are done at home. There may or may not be a pop quiz each week. If there is a pop quiz, it's typically the second day of the week if you're in a face-to-face class, or obviously on lab day if you're in a Web 2 class. But those are done in class. So you've got 5 things to do each week. You got to listen to the chapter, you got to do the quiz, you got to take the lab, do the Academy assessment, and then possibly have a pop quiz. So each week it's the same thing. Now the way we break them down is, if you're in a face-to-face class, the first day of the week I typically do the lecture, and then I do some kind of a reinforcement activity to kind of reinforce what we kind of covered. And then the second day of the week you have your graded lab. Basically you just come in and there's a lab that's typically an hour to 2 hours long, and then that's the one that gets submitted for a grade. If you're in a Web 2 class where you only have class 1 day per week, at home you're going to watch the videos and do the reinforcement activities, and then when you come to class your 1 day of the week, you're going to come in and do the lab. So no matter which class you're in, face-to-face or Web 2, you're going to have a lecture, whether it's in the class or a video at home, and you're going to have a lab that you come in and do. So how do you get it all done? Well, regardless of your course type, you need to read the chapter before the lecture. As you're reading the chapter, you need to write down any questions you have. And also check out the activities and videos that are indicated in the textbook. So basically, your textbook looks like this. And all throughout there'll be something you'll say interactive graph or packet tracer activity or something like that. So when you see these little markers on the side, it's referring to something on the Academy website. If you go, now obviously this is the Phase 2 book. Anytime there's an activity number, the first number is the chapter. So we're going to go to the Academy website, we're going to launch course, and after you launch the course you can see if it says 3122 interactive graph, I can go to 3122 and here's the graph. And I hit play and it does different things. So there's other material there to reinforce what you're doing. So as you're reading the chapters and those different things, there's a packet tracer activity. If you're having a problem with this or you're like, oh, well, what are they talking about? You can go back and refer to these and go to the Academy website and do those packet tracer activities or check out the graphs and have a better understanding. Now that said, after you read the chapter and you write down your questions and you've kind of gone through there, you probably still want to skim through that the Academy content. Launch the course, kind of go through those and see if there's anything that you missed. And the main thing is you should be writing down questions that you have. And that way when you come and you attend the lecture, you can listen to the lecture and hopefully that answers your questions. And if it doesn't, you can bring up your questions during the lecture. Now, if you're in a Web 2 version of the class where you're only coming in 1 day a week to do the lab, you should, again, read the chapter before the lecture, then watch the lecture video, and still write down your questions, anything that's been unanswered, and then when you come to the lab day, make sure you answer those questions. So typically at the very start of the lab day, the first thing I ask is, anybody have any questions over the material? And if nobody says anything, I'm assuming you guys all understood everything that was in the video. Alright, and then you also want to self-test or pre-test yourself using some of the Academy material. So after you're done, you're here at the Academy website, you can always click on assignments and wait. And now the exams these are the ones that are due in class, but if you go back to home and you hit launch course, now you see that there's the chapter 1 content, there's a quiz. Now we don't do this quiz in class, we don't do this quiz at home. This is just an extra quiz to kind of help you to see if you're understanding the material. So there's always questions in the back of each chapter. Those questions were not used in the class. So you can answer the questions in the back of the chapter of your textbook, see how you're doing, and then you can also come here to the Academy site and take these quizzes at the end of each chapter. And that way you can kind of test yourself to see if you're ready. And if you see something in there that you didn't understand, bring it to class so we can answer that. Alright, so those are the ways you can kind of test yourself. Now to recap this, whoop, wrong one. Alright. Alright, so to recap this, you want to read the chapter before the lecture. Whether your lecture is in class or it's on video, you want to read the chapter beforehand. Then you want to write down any questions that you have while you're reading the chapter, bring them to class, and that way during the lecture you can ask those questions, or at the very start of the lab day if it's a Web 2 class. Use the Academy website for help, and make sure you're pre-testing yourself at the end of each chapter. Remember, having a degree when you graduate may get you an interview, but eventually people are going to expect you to be able to perform these tasks. So if you're just here for the class for a grade and you're not testing yourself, you're not getting the knowledge, you're kind of cheating yourself out of this. Alright, so I hope that helps you to do better in the class. And again, if you have any questions over the material, please ask your instructor.